distance in the light, vibration of a thundercloud.
Hello, loved ones. This is Matt Stevens. This is the My Sober Addiction podcast. I know it has been a very long time since I've uploaded an episode. I had to kind of put the podcast on hold. And I guess I had maybe hinted around about some things that were going on in my family at the time. But we kind of kept all this kind of private. My stepmom had ALS. And unfortunately, we lost her on Christmas morning. For those of you who don't know anything about ALS, I know I certainly didn't. Of course, I'd heard about it. It's Lou Gehrig's disease. I'd heard about it, but didn't really know a whole lot about it, as far as witnessing someone go through it. I mean, we've all seen Stephen Hawking, and that's what he had. But until you really see it firsthand, you really just can't grasp how cruel it is. And that's how the lovely Kitty put it. She's seen people go through some pretty rough things, and she said that ALS is definitely the most cruel disease she's ever witnessed anyone have to go through. It doesn't affect the mind, and it doesn't affect the senses. It basically shuts down your entire body, though, as far as your muscles are concerned. You lose all control of your body. And basically trapped inside your body. Can't move, can't speak, it's terrible. Anyway, so my stepmom had that. We were kind of dealing with that. It was a very bad time, and now we are grieving her loss. But I'm also very relieved for her that she's not struggling with that anymore. And there's that. So the podcast kind of went on hold. Actually, though, looking at the stats as far as downloads and all that kind of stuff, it's actually done pretty good considering I haven't uploaded a episode in months. I did record one episode on Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend, but with all that going on with my stepmom, it kind of just got put on the back burner. And then I started to edit it, and I was about to upload it and realized it was pretty bad. And it was probably pretty bad because of the things that we were going through at the time. I felt like it was just kind of thrown together. I may not be the best podcaster. I am certainly just kind of ramble at you guys and keep you company, maybe. Maybe I just like to hear myself talk. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm redoing it now. So for those of you that have been keeping up, I have been reading the series of books, Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. I've been into the second book about halfway through. It's a little just too political. And while the first book, I do believe, was very relevant to the topic, the subject, an actual conversation with God, the Creator. The second book just got a little too out there and politically and talking about things that I just don't find are relevant to me. Kind of like when you hear something, use your discernment. We listen with an open mind, and whatever parts of that we can use, whatever parts of that we feel apply to us, we take that, and then we leave whatever else. We just leave that part. And that's kind of how we are on our personal journey. So I had been saying that I was going to read something, and I am. I'm very excited about it. It's a short story called The Egg by Andy Weir. Bear with me. It takes a few minutes to read, but I think it's a very good short story. This story is telling it from the perspective of the Creator, from God. Here we go. The Egg by Andy Weir. You were on your way home when you died. It was a car accident. Nothing particularly remarkable, but fatal nonetheless. You left behind a wife and 2 children. It was a painless death. The EMTs tried their best to save you, but to no avail. Your body was so utterly shattered, you were better off. Trust me. And that's when you met me. What happened? You asked. Where am I? You died, I said, matter-of-factly. No point in mincing words. There was a truck and it was skidding. Yep, I said. I died? Yep. But don't feel bad about it. Everyone dies, I said. You looked around. There was nothingness. Just you and me. What is this place, you asked? Is this the afterlife? More or less, I said. Are you God? You asked. Yep, I replied. I'm God. My kids. My wife, you said. What about them? Will they be all right? That's what I like to see, I said. You just died, and your main concern is for your family. That's good stuff right there. You looked at me with fascination. To you, I didn't look like God. I just looked like some man, or possibly a woman. Some vague authority figure, maybe. More of a grammar school teacher than the Almighty. Don't worry, I said. They'll be fine. Your kids will remember you as perfect in every way. They didn't have time to grow contempt for you. Your wife will cry on the outside, but will be secretly relieved. To be fair, your marriage was falling apart. If it's any consolation, she'll feel very guilty for feeling relieved. Oh, you said. So what happens now? Do I go to heaven or hell or something? Neither, I said. You'll be reincarnated. Ah, you said. So the Hindus were right. All religions are right in their own way, I said. Walk with me. You followed along as we strode through the void. Where are we going? Nowhere in particular, I said. It's just nice to walk while we talk. So what's the point then, you asked? When I get reborn, I'll just be a blank slate, right? A baby. So all my experiences and everything I did in this life won't matter. Not so, I said. You have within you all the knowledge and experiences of all your past lives. You just don't remember them right now. I stopped walking and took you by the shoulders. Your soul is more magnificent, beautiful, and gigantic than you can possibly imagine. A human mind can only contain a tiny fraction of what you are. It's like sticking your finger in a glass of water to see if it's hot or cold. You put a tiny part of yourself into the vessel, and when you bring it back out, you've gained all the experiences it had. You've been in a human for the last 48 years, so you haven't stretched out yet and felt the rest of your immense consciousness. If we hung out here for long enough, you'd start remembering everything. But there's no point to doing that between each life. How many times have I been reincarnated then? Oh, lots. Lots and lots. As in, lots of different lives, I said. This time around, you'll be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. Wait, what? You stammered. You're sending me back in time? Well, I guess technically. Time as you know it only exists in your universe. Things are different where I come from. Where you come from? You said. Oh, sure, I explained. I come from somewhere else. And there are others like me. I know you'll want to know what it's like there, but honestly, you wouldn't understand. Oh, you said, a little let down. But wait, if I get reincarnated to other places in time, I could have interacted with myself at some point. Sure, happens all the time. And with both lives only aware of their own lifespan, you don't even know what's happening. So what's the point of it all? Seriously? I asked. Seriously, you're asking me for the meaning of life? Isn't that a little stereotypical? Well, it's a reasonable question, you persisted. I looked you in the eye. The meaning of life, the reason I made this whole universe, is for you to mature. You mean mankind. You want us to mature. No, just you. I made this whole universe for you. With each new life, you grow and mature and become a larger and greater intellect. Just me. What about everyone else? There is no one else, I said. In this universe, there's just you and me. You stared blankly at me. But all the people on Earth. All you. Different incarnations of you. Wait, I'm everyone? Now you're getting it, I said with a congratulatory slap on the back. I'm every human being who ever lived, or who will ever live, yes. I'm Abraham Lincoln, and you're John Wilkes Booth too, I added. I'm Hitler, you said appalled, and you're the millions he killed. I'm Jesus, and you're everyone who followed him. You fell silent. Every time you victimized someone, I said, you were victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you've done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment ever experienced by any human was or will be experienced by you. You thought for a long time. Why? You asked me. Why do all this? Because someday you will become like me. Because that's what you are. You're one of my kind. You're my child. Whoa, you said, incredulous. You mean I'm a god? No, not yet. You're a fetus. You're still growing. Once you've lived every human life throughout all time, you will have grown enough to be born. So the whole universe, you said, it's just an egg, I answered. Now it's time for you to move on to your next life. And I sent you on your way. Okay. The Egg was supposedly written in 1 hour. It's a brilliant work, I must say. Do I believe it could have been written in 1 hour? Yeah, no doubt. It actual pen to paper part could have been done in an hour. The mental preparation, the thought that went into developing this theory probably took weeks. If the author claimed it was conceived, developed, written, all within 1 hour, I would have a hard time believing that. Unless maybe it was some kind of channeled message or automatic writing inspired by God, such as in Conversations with God. Then maybe. The Egg is not unlike Conversations with God, but not exactly like it either. It claims that there are two beings in this reality, the Creator and you. Conversations with God says there is really only one being, God. And we are expressions of it, him. We are God having an experience so that God can experience itself. You can't know good without knowing bad, hot without cold, this without that. The Creator essentially says it's not enough to just conceive of something. To truly know it, you must experience it. To experience it, you must be it. And also to know its contrast. The yin and yang, however they pronounce it these days, both have a little bit of each other inside of them. I guess that's not really relevant to this, but I did need to get that out there. Moving on. What is God? Well, according to Conversations with God, God is us. Everything. The all. It's important to note that we are not fragments of God scattered to the wind, but we're each a whole. For example, if you have 100 people, they're not each 1/100th of God, meaning like pieces where you've got to bring all of them back together to make the whole. No, each one is a whole. In the Christian Bible, God did say, ye are gods, which doesn't mean that we're deities in the sense of our understanding, but that we are him living in experience. That's all. Scientific definition of a hologram says that the whole is made up of parts that are also the wholes. In other words, each part is basically a replica of the whole. Not unlike in the Mandelbrot set. Most people are familiar with the Mandelbrot set. They may not realize that's what they're looking at, but if you Google it, you'll see what a Mandelbrot set is. And you'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen that before. Anyway, not unlike the Mandelbrot set, which is a pattern that is said to be as big as 1 trillion times the size of the entire universe, but can also be zeroed in on infinitely, and it keeps repeating forever. There is no end. The zoomed in parts keep repeating on itself and keeps looking the same forever. The parts are the whole. Now getting back to how we must experience everything so that we can truly know it. And we also must experience a contrast. I recently had a conversation with someone who said that good came before bad because you can't know bad unless you know good. I disagree. I say they are equally important, and one is not possible without the other. So what we see as bad or evil must be necessary so that we can know what good and love is. I think ultimately we originated from pure love, the Creator. But to know and understand that, or even have an appreciation for it, we must experience evil and fear. We must experience them and know them, and in this reality, overcome them, fear and evil. Some people will be drawn into and turn to darkness for a time, but at some point, I believe we all return to the original source, the Creator. I believe all of this is necessary, and if looked at from the 30,000-foot view, we would see it. We would see why the good and the bad that people do is all part of the collective's growth and coming to discover and know ourselves as individuals and as a collective, to know the all. There is a growing collective of humanity that is awakening. There are some who are growing spiritually, and they appear to be what they call ascending. Ascending how? It appears as though we are transcending third dimensional reality and moving into, I guess, fourth dimension or fifth dimension. 4D has been established as that is the dimension of time. We are able to view time vertically rather than horizontally. Now, there are also those who are anchoring themselves more into 3D. They are not only remaining materialistic, but they're becoming more so. And that's fine. Everybody's on their own journey. I see a lot of people in the spiritual community really being super judgy of people who are not. Nobody's better than any other. Because if we are to believe that we are children of God and we are having an experience so that we can then, basically, for lack of a better term, report back to God and show him what we learned so that God can then live an experience through us. We can't judge them for that. Besides, ultimately, I believe that we are all going to end up right back where we came from. Right back at the source. So people who are in other religions, people who are super materialistic, even atheists. Although atheists are some of the most preachy people I've ever met. Anyway, so the people who are staying in the more materialistic third dimension, and those of us who are evolving more spiritually and moving into more of a timeless version of ourselves in, say, the fourth dimension, I believe that the two groups are gradually moving apart and will eventually be resonating on such different frequencies that we won't even exist in the same reality. There are those in the ascension movement that believe there is a whole other planet Earth that we will physically move to when the time comes, a 5D version of this 3D planet. I'm going to risk sounding very ascension snobbish, yes, I'm using air quotes, and say that is a very 3D point of view. To assume that we're going to move to a whole other physical place, you're not transcending anything if you can't believe that we're just separating vibrationally. What I would mean by separating vibrationally would mean that it's like the entire light spectrum versus the actual visible light spectrum. Our eyes can only perceive only a tiny fraction of the light spectrum, the field that makes up our perceived reality. Let's say it's a range of 25 to 75. Keeping it simple. We'll say my left pinky finger resonates at 25.12345. And the finger next to it is 25.12346. And my shirt is, we'll say 26.12345. But my heart is very high vibrational. It's 70.1230. Anything that vibrates at a frequency below 25 or above 75 is not within our field and is not able to be perceived as a part of our reality. People who are ascending or raising their vibration may be currently up to 75 to 80 range and will eventually be completely out of the range of 25 to 75, which would essentially put them in another field of frequencies altogether. And we can, just for sake of an argument, call that the fifth dimension. All the lower vibrational stuff in 3D, such as famine and disease, do not exist there. Keep in mind, dear loved one, I am merely telling you things that I have gleaned from listening to some of these people in the Ascension movement. Do I believe it's happening? Yeah, I do. Because I do believe that everything is just frequency. Everything is just an oscillating field. And based on how you vibrate, what you perceive. It's just like in space. They can determine that there are lots of things in space that we can't see. It's been speculated that by astrophysicists or whatever that we can only see 5% of what's actually there, which then begs the question, well, what's the other 95%? Well, it's things that are not visible to us, things that are vibrating on another level that we cannot perceive. We can detect it, but we can't see it. Kind of like any dimensions outside of our third. We have been able to determine that there may be as many as 11 dimensions. Some have said 13. I've even heard some physicists say that there may be an unlimited amount of dimensions. The overall consensus they've kind of settled on the number 11. Whatever, that's not important. All of this carries with it the assumption that we are not really physical at all, that we are purely mental, a thought in the mind of the Creator who is creating us, sentient beings, in its mind, giving us minds of our own and free will, turning us loose to have experiences. Further still, in this creation, there is, quote unquote, physicality, or at least perceived physicality. This is where we are now. Our true selves that were created are outside of this divine matrix, driving this avatar, this body that you inhabit in this physical existence. For what, Matt? Well, to grow, to expand, to learn more about ourselves. We are immortal beings who exist outside of time and space. The suffering experience in this physical existence allows us to understand and appreciate our actual existence. To know this, you must know that. To appreciate immortality, you must experience mortality. This is great news. It means our true selves can see the 30,000-foot view from above. What's in front of us, what's around the next turn, which is the best route forward. Just like in a video game. If you're playing a video game, you're able to look at a map. But your avatar that's in the game, go with Call of Duty, go with Warcraft or whatever, any of those games, where you have a avatar that's on the ground in the game, down in a forest. Can't see what's up ahead around the bend, can't see what's on the other side of that mountain, but you can, because you are up above the game and looking down. So you may urge that avatar, go to the left, go to the right. Now let's imagine that avatar has a mind of its own, a physical mind of its own, and you're living an experience through this avatar. Wouldn't it be good if that avatar would try to find a way to tune in to you so that it can receive some kind of guidance from you? That would be intuition. If we were to learn how to tune into our higher self, our immortal souls, that's on the outside, having an experience through these avatars. If we were to do that, we could make this physical existence into whatever we want it to be. We are co-creators of this reality. We have mostly unconsciously created ourselves up to this point. We have been programmed and disinformed to know of our true power, the power given to us by the Creator. We are the Creator, and the Creator is us. But we had to come here and figure it out for ourselves. Otherwise, what would have been the point? So that's what we're doing. We're figuring it out. Am I getting a little too woo-woo for you? Oops. But this is all great news because we are able to create our reality however we want it to be. We are not this body. We are not this avatar. We are the mind, the soul. And we can make this experience in the physical whatever we want it to be. How? Two things, imagination and action. Sure, there has to be some visualization and emotion. But imagination is creative. Don't believe me? Make up a story in your mind. That's being creative. Now, if you believe that we live in the mind of God, that this is all God's mind, but the difference is these characters in God's story, us, were given free will and a mind of our own. So what I have learned from all of this is to get into action. I'm actually a pretty decent writer. I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. I know, you're sitting there listening thinking, well, that ain't saying a whole lot, dude, but whatever. I can sit and write pages upon pages in one sitting, and it'd be pretty good. But my problem is I procrastinate. I've probably lost more good material than I've actually put on paper. So what I need to learn to do is to get into action. I need to start writing. Who knows? I could maybe make a living writing. I very well could. I am writing a memoir. I've been talking about that. I have started to put it on Wattpad. No, I'm not publishing it there, but I'm starting to get it into Wattpad so that way I can edit it. So that I can then self-publish it. I don't know if I will publish it on Wattpad, maybe on Amazon. I'm not sure. But the point is, if I make a decision that I'm going to be a writer, because I've been blessed with the talent to be able to write far better than I can speak, but I'm working on that part too. And the only thing left to do is get into action and start doing it. And just like anybody else. If you're a writer, then write. If you're this or you're that, if you've consciously made a decision and made a declaration, then the only thing left to do to manifest this in your life is to actually do it. It's that simple and that hard. So that's kind of my takeaway from these stories about God. I know it's a little bit of a stretch, but it shows me that reality is malleable. Reality is mental. And I'm not all woo-woo in saying that because there's a lot of physicists, lots of them nowadays, who are all saying the same thing, that the universe pretty much is a mental construct. They don't want to go so far as to say it's the mind of God. They are scientists, after all. So, all right, fine. Throw them a bone. Give them some slack with that one, whatever. But that's exactly what they're saying. If they're saying the universe is mental, fine. It's a mental construct, great. We exist inside that. So it's kind of like simulation theory. I believe we live in some alien nerd computer in his mom and dad's basement. No, I don't think that's true either. Although there's a lot of people who do, because they say that there are too many things that are too perfect, that none of this is by accident, which I don't believe any of this is by accident. I believe it's all completely on purpose. There is no coincidence. All of this creation is very much by design and very much on purpose. So anyway, sorry to get out there on a tangent. I may or may not edit some of that out. I've already gone over on time, but that's okay. Gives me some wiggle room for editing. I do appreciate everyone's very kind thoughts and support, prayers during this time with our family. ALS, it's a bitch. I mean, it really is. Especially when you have to watch someone that you love and have known your entire life go through that. It really makes you want to appreciate our health and maybe take care of it a little better. Of course, ALS is not something that is brought on by smoking or heredity or anything like that. In fact, I'm pretty sure they believe they don't exactly know what causes ALS. Just that 1 in 20,000 are affected by it. I will be back next episode. This is the 19th. Next episode is the 20th. The plan has been for the lovely Kitty to do the 20th episode with me. I'm really excited about that. I'm not sure how it's going to go as far as editing is concerned, but maybe there won't be a whole lot of editing. And that'll be fine too, right? So we've got some ideas on what to do on that, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be an experience. But you guys are going to finally get to hear from the lovely Kitty. But until then, I love you all. Take care of each other, and I will talk with you again real soon.
There is a distance in the light.